afternoon and welcome back to my channel. I'm your host and tutor, Annalise Garrison. And today I'm going to teach you about burns. Alright, I'm going to teach you about burns, the rule of nines, and the Parkland calculation formula. What are we going to learn about burns in this presentation? We're going to learn about the four types of burns, first, second, third, and fourth degree. We're going to learn about partial and full thickness burns. Okay, that's what we're going to learn as far as burns go. I'm going to teach you how to calculate the percentage of the burns on the body, how to calculate the percentage of the burned area, and I'm going to teach you how to calculate giving the medication through the Parkland calculation formula. Okay, those are the three things we're going to learn this afternoon. So, let's get started, shall we? And thank you for coming today. All right, real quickly, you were taught this in college. This is just going to be a quick refresher for you. What are the four classifications of burns? What is a first-degree burn? Do you remember? A first-degree burn is the superficial burn, right? It affects only the outer layer of the skin, or the dermis. The burn site is red, painful, dry, but there's no blisters. An example of this would be sunburn, right? Let's talk about second-degree burns, or partial thickness burns. Second-degree burns involve the epidermis and part of the lower layer of the skin, also known as the dermis. The burn site looks red, blistered, and may be swollen and painful. Okay? That's a partial thickness burn, or what's known as a second-degree burn. A third-degree burn, or a full thickness burn, this destroys the epidermis and the dermis. They may go into the innermost layer of the skin and the subcutaneous tissue. The burn site may look white or blackened and charred. This is what's known as a full thickness burn or a third degree burn. Okay? Now it's important to know that if 10% of the body is burned, second degree or third degree, the patient is going to need a special wound care center. Okay? That's very important to remember. Now, if 10% of the body is burned, they're going to need a special wound care center for the child. Key areas involve the hands, the feet, the genitals, the face, major joints. If the person has been burned with chemicals, if the person has experienced electrical burns, or if there's presence of a third-degree burn, they're going to need a special wound care center right off the bat. Okay? If 15% of their body is burned, please remember for the NCLEX that they're going to need one peripheral line to provide IV fluid. If 40% of their body is burned, they're going to need two peripheral lines to provide IV fluid. Now, and also remember that if 30% of an individual's body is burned, this is potentially fatal. And the last type of burn classification, that I want to tell you about real quickly is fourth-degree burns. Fourth-degree burns, as you can see by the graphic in front of you, fourth-degree burns go through both layers of the skin and underlying tissue, as well as the deeper tissue, possibly involving muscle and bone. You will know that a person has a fourth-degree burn because there is no feeling in the area since the nerve endings have been destroyed. So this is the main thing I want to tell you about burns. Now you see, it's important to know what percentage of the body has been burned so that we know how to treat the individual. So now, let us talk about the rule of nines. Okay, so now next, let's figure out the percentage of surface area burned. How do we figure that out? I love this chart, but I can see that usually the neck is not 1%, okay? They usually have the head and neck at 9%, so write that down. Head and neck constitute 9%, okay? That's the only difference on this chart. And the groin area, or the peritoneum area, is 1% for both the child and the adult, okay? So let's do this. So we can see that in the adult, the front of the head and neck is 4.5%. The back of the head is 4.5%. It's 9% total. Okay? The front, the chest area, is 18%. You know, the chest and the abdominal area is 18%. The back of the adult, the chest and the upper back and lower back is 18%. So the front is 18% and the back is 18%. Two different things. The arms, same thing with the arms. For the adult, the arms, the top of the arm is 4.5%. The back of the arm is 4.5%. 9% total. And the legs, including the feet, are 18%. All right, so let me repeat that. Are we ready? The arm is 9%. The head is 9%. The legs are 18% apiece. The anterior trunk is 18%. The posterior trunk is 18%. And the groin area is 1%. That is for the adult. For the child, the head and neck area is 18%. That means that it's 9% for the front and 9% for the back. Right? The arms are 4.5% for the front and 4.5% for the back. So 9% total, okay? Arms is 9%. The head and neck is 18%. The legs are 14%. So there's a little bit of a difference, but not much. Again, not listed on this chart is the groin area, which is 1%. So all we got to do, ladies and gentlemen, is just stop the video, write down the body surface area and the percentage of that body surface area. Commit this to memory, okay? Because we need to know the percentage on this chart in order to do our Parkland formula calculation, which is what we're going to do next. So let's look at an NCLEX question, shall we? Okay, so let's read the first part of this question that's in black, right? The nurse is caring for a client with deep partial thickness burns. At work, he suffered chemical burns to the back of his head, the back of his left arm, and the lower back area. Okay, now what can we deduce from this question? Remember that deep partial thickness is third-degree burns. Partial thickness burns is second-degree burns, right? So this is a third-degree burn. So we know that this individual is going to have to go to a special burn center. We know that without even calculating the body surface area of the percentage of the burn, because it said at work he suffered chemical burns. If they suffer chemical burns or electrical burns, they have to go to a special burn center, right? A special wound center, right? We can also deduce that this is an adult because it says at work. A child does not go to work, right? So this is an adult with third-degree burns who has to go to a special wound center because of the chemical burn. Now, in order to A, find the percentage of his body, what percentage of his body was burned, we have to do the rule of nines. Now let's look at the chart again. So burns to the back of his head was 4.5% because his entire head is 9. So 9 divided by 2 is 4.5. So the back of his head is 4.5. The back of his left arm is 4.5 because his entire arm is 9%. So the back of his left arm is 9%. Sorry, the back of his left arm is 4.5%. Add his lower back. Now, his lower back, the entire back, is 18%. So his lower back would be 9%. So all we do is add that up. 9 plus 4.5 plus 4.5 is total surface area burned of his body is 18%. Now, we mentioned that if he has 10% of his body burns, he has to go to a special wound center. If he has 15% of his body burned, he needs one peripheral line to provide IV fluid. If 40% of his body is burned, he needs two peripheral lines to provide IV fluid. And remember that if a person has 30% of their body burned, this could be potentially fatal. Okay? Now, let's do the calculation for the Parkland formula calculation. The formula itself goes like this. We give 4 milliliters of Ringer's lactate times the amount of body surface area burned times the weight in kilograms. That's the actual formula. Now, we give half of this solution in the first 8 hours and the other half over the next 16 hours. So, looking at the question again, we go like this. We go 4 milliliters times 18% times 102.1. That is the person's body weight in kilograms. Let's look at the question. So, we give Ringer's lactate because Ringer's lactate, as you remember, is an isotonic solution. So we give 4 milliliters of Ringer's lactate, isotonic solution, per body surface area, which is 18, per weight in kilograms, which is 102.1. Okay, so you set it up like 4 milliliters times 18 times 102.1 equals 7,351.2 milliliters to be given in a 24-hour period. But this question asked needs to be delivered in the first 8 hours. So we take the 7,351.2 and we divide that in half for the first 8 hours. Remember, we give half of the solution in the first 8 hours, and that would be 3,675.6 divided by 8. If you're trying to figure out the hourly rate, divided by 8, and that would be 459 milliliters an hour. Now, don't worry, because I am going to show you how to do this problem in a math problem when I tutor pharmacology. So let's go into our tutoring session now. For those of you that are listening to this video, thank you for listening. Please contact me and I can tutor you as well.